Hello everyone, and welcome to a tutorial on building an auto crafting system that will rotate through different recipes to craft basically whatever you need. Anything that can be crafted in the industrial crafter can be built using this system. The system is built on a couple of foundations that I'm going to go through here, just kind of illustrate the components of the system. I'm not claiming mine is the best, but if you understand the components and how the system is built, you'll have a better opportunity to make your own cool, crazy circuits and stuff like this. I'm going to break this down into sections. I'm going to cover a couple of core components and how they work, and then I'm going to go through building the system. If you don't care about the components or how they work, I'll see if I can figure out in DaVinci Resolve how to put a time card on the screen, or see if I could fight YouTube Studio to put chapters or something into the video. But if I can't do that, just fast forward until you see a workbench, and that's when we're actually going to go ahead and start crafting it. So without further ado, I'm just going to get into a couple of basics here. You have been sleeping on the industrial crafter, or conveyor. As you can see here, I've got a really simple circuit setup, and everybody knows a lot about this. Well, they know a basic functionality. When you look at your industrial conveyor, you've got your power in, your turn off, your turn on. That's what most people look at. You also have your pass through. Everybody kind of limits it to that, and if we just go ahead and hook this up, just let me power that up. Everybody uses the industrial conveyor. Very simple. They'll drop an item in there. I've set up this button to turn on the conveyor, this button to turn off the conveyor, and the light's just showing that the pass-through works. So if I turn on the conveyor, light goes green on the front, and this beautiful little box in here is going to magically travel through all of these pipes that we've set up and end up in our other box here. Hooray! Everybody's also acutely aware that you can come in and change filters and stuff like that. And you can get just the items that you want into the specific boxes. It's a really simple component at first when you just kind of glance at it. Oh, I can turn it on and off. I can pass electricity through it. Hooray, it's great. But what the real power is with this conveyor are these two outputs right here, the filter pass and the filter fail. When you set up a filter on this for whatever, it will, if it receives 2 power, that's important to remember, it has to receive at least 2 power to say, well, I guess it has to receive an additional power based off what you need through the pass-through, because it's going to siphon 1 power off. And as you can see here, my filter fail right now is getting a power of 1, and my filter pass is getting a power of 0. So we can actually use this to not only move items between boxes, but we can actually use these outputs here to tell us what's inside these boxes, right? So if we come over here, I've got a really basic example set up. Let me grab the electricity from here. We don't need that circuit anymore. I'll bring this over here, and I'll wire this up here to the power in. What I've done is I've set up a filter here where I need an AK and a minimum of 1 AK. So a limitation of this system is it's always the minimum plus 1. Sorry, coffee drink. So having said that, because I've hooked up the filter pass to the green light here with the green line, and the filter fail with the red light, or with the red line to a red light, when I pull one of the 2 AKs out of this box, immediately I'm told that now the query into this box, the pipe isn't going anywhere. I'm just using this pipe to query into this box and see that I'm short 1 AK. I go ahead and put that AK back in, give it a second for the industrial system to work, boom. It now tells me that, hey, I have the items I need. Take one out, wait for the tick. Boom. Now it's telling me that I don't have this. So the backbone of this auto crafting system is this functionality right here. We're not using the conveyors to move any items around like we are over in this circuit. We're just simply using the conveyor to look into this box and tell us, do we have the minimum amount of stuff that we want? A game changer for me when with building circuits is when I realized that we can use the industrial conveyor as a logic branch instead of just a simple mechanism of transferring items from one box to another. So that is key to this this system. Another component that makes this system so low cost in energy is another component that most people are sleeping on, and that is the memory cell. Everybody sees this, they don't really care about it, they don't really use it. I'm sure many have been thrown into the recycler for whatever reason. The fact of the matter is this component is absolutely amazing. So what is it? How does it work? It's really quite simple. We'll get into more details. I've got another example there, but let's just go over the inputs and outputs. You've got your power in, you've got your output, your inverted output, your set, your reset, and your toggle. So how does this work? This is, in the programming world, this is referred to as a flip-flop, and I'm not going to get into any of that stuff. I'll leave the programming out of it. But just to simplify it, when power comes in, it either goes out the output or the inverted output. And how it determines what it goes through is the state of the memory cell. So you can think of the memory cell as holding a 0 or 1. I promise I'll try to stay away from the development terms. But you can think of it as on or off, true or false, 0 or 1. And depending on the on or off state, it's going to send power to the output or the inverted output. You control this by either setting, which will set it to 1, which will then send the power through the output. You can reset it to 0. 0 is its default state. So you reset it to 0 and the power will come out of the inverted output. Or you can just toggle. So you don't need to know what the state is. You can just toggle to the different state. Now we're going to leverage all of this to create a sequence that is going to run through a crafting node, and then the next one, and then the next one. And the beautiful part is because the memory cell itself doesn't actually consume any power, we can run through or loop through a series of circuits passing the same power and therefore saving all of that power. So if we come over here, I built this. Well, this is a really simple example of the sequencing. So what I've done here is I have a memory cell. I have the output going directly to the next cell in the sequence. I have the inverted output coming over to this electrical branch. So black wire is inverted output, red wire is output. From the electrical branch, the first thing I do is I take this white wire and I reset the next memory cell in the sequence, setting that to 0. I then branch out or take the power out of that. I go into this green light over here, and then from the green light, I take the pass-through and I come over and I set the current memory cell. And what that's going to do, like we just talked about over here, it's going to flip the input from inverted to output. And that's going to move us on to the next memory cell in the cycle. As you can see, it's the exact same circuit. Sorry about the blue wire, I'm trying to make it clear. I should have went underneath to make it consistent. But just to cover it again, red is our output. Black is our inverted output. Blue is the pass-through on the light itself. White is the branch from the node before, and green just goes from the branch power out to the light. The only difference with this is the last item in the branch. We come out of the output, and we actually come back down to the first memory cell, and we reset it. So that after it goes through all of these, the inverted output is going to come to this light. The pass-through is going to set this light, which will then toggle from the black power out to the red power out, come back down to the bottom, and start the whole thing all over again. So if I come over here and run over here and plug it into the bottom, what you're going to see is we're going to flash each one of these lights in sequence and then start again. And we're just going to keep doing that forever. Well, as you can see, that's exactly what's happening. Each light or each branch is resetting the next cell, and then each light is setting its current cell. So it just in sequence runs through 1, 2, 3, 4, and it'll do this forever. This combined with the conveyors is actually how we are going to determine, we're going to use the conveyors to query into our storage system. Do we need the items? And we're going to use this circuit here to actually loop through the items and kick off our industrial crafting process. One thing to note that you're gonna have to live with if you are automating your base is you can hear the clicks right now. The conveyors click. So there, you're gonna have a clicky base. It's going to be annoying. So without further ado, based on those two principles, the industrial conveyor being used as a query system into our storage, and using this looping cell, we can come over here. Sorry, I tried to hide things. And we can start from scratch and build ourselves a brand new industrial crafting system. It is going to be a little expensive. It's going to cost some frags. There's no getting around that. But the only components you actually need to do this are power, the conveyor, the combiner, the adapter, the splitter, obviously the crafter. You're going to need the AND switch, the memory cell, and the electrical branch as well. So the very first thing we're going to do is we're going to set up our industrial conveyor, or sorry, adapters onto our box here. So this box I've just set up, it's got the blueprints for the items I want to build, and it's got the resources to do it. This could be a full storage system inside your base or whatever, but just to keep things simple, I'm just going to put everything in this one box. So again, we're going to go through. If I go too fast or anything, I don't know, hit me up in comments or whatever, play the video at 0.5 speed. You're smart. I don't need to tell you how to do things. So again, the basis is we're going to loop through recipes. Each one of these is considered a recipe. And we're going to use this cell here to conserve power. And we're going to use this idea here to check to see if we actually need to craft things. As you can see, I picked 5 med pens and bandages. You wouldn't set up this system for 3 basic components like this. This system can be a lot more complex. You can set it up to craft, basically everything to rockets. You can have it step through and build all of the different components that you need. I'll let your imagination run wild with that. But for the time being, I'm just going to illustrate how to set up a simple 3-sequence crafter. You're going to have to forgive my pauses, my ums, my coffee sips. I'll see if I can open up DaVinci Resolve somehow and start clipping those out. But if not, you're going to have to suffer through it. Sorry, All right, so let's go. So the first thing we need to do is we need to think about our circuit. We know we're going to set up 3. I'm just going to give myself lots of space here. So we know we're going to need 3 memory cells. And we're going to add another one on the end just to make life a little easier. When we're flipping things around, make things easier to follow. You can get creative with this. After our memory cell, we are going to need a branch. So our branch, we're just going to throw here. And the reason that we need a branch is because one of the limitations, and I kind of touched on it earlier, of the filter pass and the filter fail is it will only ever pass 1 electricity. We're going to need more than that down the line to control the series of conveyors. So the first thing after the branch is we're going to take a conveyor. I like to rotate them because it saves a little bit more space, but you don't have to do anything the way I'm doing it. I'm just showing for illustration purposes. So the first step in our circuit is our check. We're going to query into our item storage, and we're going to see if we actually have the number of items that we want. So for this example, to keep it simple, I'm going to say I want, I don't want it to craft 5 forever. So I'm going to say 6 5, 2 med pens, and 5 bandages. That's what I want. That's what I need. So I'm going to come over to this crafter. I'm going to say this one is going to check for med pens. Now, a limitation of this system, again, is it's +1. So I said I want what? I don't know. I'll do 4. So I'll set that to 3, and the system will build 4. It's always 1 more than the value in the min. So we're going to make sure we have 4 med pens. We'll do bandages here. I guess we'll do the same. So we'll make sure we're going to have 4 bandages. And if 4 is the lucky number, we're going to say that we want 4 5 as well. Which is silly because it crafts in 3s, but whatever. So after that, this conveyor here, using this circuit or logic, is going to reach into our box here and tell us if we have those items or if we need to craft them. One thing that's going to get tedious and expensive is well, maybe not expensive, but a pain in the butt, is going to be these industrial splitters. We're going to need one of these splitters for each recipe in the circuit. And in order to feed those, you're going to have to change our chain splitters. So again, it's going to become a pain in the butt to set all of this up with the space. You can get creative. They don't need to be set up in the same order or sequence, or sorry, in the same placement that I'm using here. I'm just using this as a nice clean way to show the example. So I'm going to come out of my box here. I'm going to come over here, and I'm just going to pipe that into the first splitter. So now you can see that I've taken the one pipe output and I've split it into 3 outputs. You know what, just for realism here, always leave an extra input or an output. It might cost you an extra component or whatever, but trust me, later on when you go to expand a system or something like that, you're going to be very happy you have these 2 additional outputs. So, I'm just trying to think of routing here for the pipes. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to run all the pipes up and over and then down to the ins. The reason I'm doing this is to try to make it simple so that you can pause later on, look at the circuit, debug it if you have issues or whatever. So I'm just taking an output from that and dropping it in here. It looks like there's pipes coming out here, but all of these are empty. These aren't actually pulling anything from the system. They are just checking if things need to be in there. Now, next, we need this AND switch. And again, that's the limitation of the output of pass or fail. So I'm going to set an AND switch here. And actually, before I go any further, I'm just going to go ahead and wire up the memory cells in sequence. So I'm going to use red for power. I typically do. Red is just base power passing through. Wire that up, and then remember on this one here, the inverted output on the last one is going to come down and it's going to reset this memory cell. So this here is the beginning of building that circuit. The next thing we're going to need to do is I'll switch to black for this because we're just coming out of the inverted output. We're going to come down into the power in on that branch. Again, inverted output over to that branch. Trying to keep it clean so you can follow it. So sorry if you're having a hard time. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to come out of the branch out here. I'll switch colors to white because this is a really small run. We're going to come over to the power in on the conveyor. So this is going to power our query conveyor that lets us know if we actually need to craft anything. The next thing we need to do is, if you remember over here, we actually use this branch to reset the next memory cell in the sequence. We can't do that here. So what we're going to do is we're going to switch to this beautiful light blue. We're going to come to our pass-through on our very first conveyor. We're going to run that back up, and this is going to come up here to the reset switch. So as soon as this conveyor receives power, it's going to reset the next cell in the sequence. We don't really need to worry about that with this one, but you know what? Just for the sake of completeness, we'll come over here and we'll reset this as well. Again, you don't actually have to. This one's just kind of used as a placeholder to loop down here, and again to extend the system later on, because you're going to end up crafting more than 3 things. If you're only crafting 3 things, don't build this. Okay, so now if we come in, we'll grab this beautiful purple. This beautiful purple is going to come out of that branch. It's going to come over here to our AND switch. It's going to be one of the inputs here, and again, this is just to get around the limitation of only getting 1 power out of pass or fail. So you get it. Now we're on to the pass fail. So we've set this up to have a minimum of 3. If we don't have 3, pass or filter pass is going to go positive. That means we actually want to craft these things. So I'm going to filter fail. Sorry, I might have said pass earlier. Filter fail into the AND switch. Filter fail into the AND switch. And again, that's the red wire. Red means fail or not good. If it passed, though, if I had three things, I actually want, I'll switch to green for this, I want to just move to the next item in the circle. I don't need to craft this. So I'm going to come over and toggle the switch. So if the filter passes, I don't need to do anything. I'm just going to toggle my own memory switch or memory cell so that I move on to the next item in the sequence. There we go. So now we have our first conveyor set up. I'm not going to turn it on. Our first query conveyor that's testing, hey, do I have items or do I need to craft items? Well, the next question we have to ask our storage system is, do we have the resources to actually craft it? Because there's no sense sitting here trying to craft something if we don't have the resources to do it. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to pull another line from my crafting system, or sorry, from my storage system. I'm just going to pull it down here, out. These are all going out. Wait, I could have another one. Ah, there we go. That one. Sorry. What happens when you don't script and you just run? Okay. So, this over. Come down here to our in. This one in. So this is where we actually need to know the recipe for what we want to craft. So down here, I want to craft a med pen. You can just come over here and check. Med pens are 15 cloth, 10 frags, 10 low grade. So do we have cloth? We need at least 15, but an important thing to do here is keep in mind this will suck all of the resources out of your base. So if you want to ensure that there's always 100 cloth in your storage system, you're going to put that buffer in here. So I'm going to say I always want 100 cloth, but I know I need 15. So the minimum amount for me to go ahead and craft a med pen is I need 115 cloth. I'm going to need some frags. Again, I'll just do 110. I know I need 10 frags to do it. I don't want to use all the frags in the base. These aren't real numbers. Use what's right for your situation. We're also going to need low grade. And we're going to need 10 low grade. I'm going to say I don't care if I use all of the low grade in the base, so I'm just going to set this to 10. Now, an important part about this is we need to require everything, because if I have cloth and frags but no low grade, I can't actually build this. So I require everything. So I'm going to go ahead and hit apply. I'm going to do the same thing over here. This is bandages. Bandages are what? 4 cloth. So I'm gonna grab cloth. Again, I'll do the same thing. I need 104. I'm gonna keep 100 cloth in the base. And then over here, what's this? 5.5. 5.5 is, check your recipes, 10 frags, 5 gunpowder. So we'll come in here. We're gonna need frags, gunpowder. What is it? I think it's. We'll do 110 frags and 105 gunpowder. I always get that mixed up. Is that right? 10 frags, 5 gunpowder. Yep. Okay. So now we have these conveyors that are going to tell us if we need to, or if we actually have the resources to build anything or to craft it. So I'm going to come down here and I'm going to wire this up. This one's really simple, really short run. We'll use yellow. Yellow is going to come out and go into the power in of the conveyor. Very simple, very easy to do. So what happens? Oh, I messed up over here. Okay, whatever. You know what? I'll just change it real quick here now, and I won't edit it so you can see that everybody makes mistakes. Instead of this coming out and going to the toggle, I messed up. Let's go back to green. The filter pass should come out. I'm going to make this clean. Come out and go down to the set. Doesn't really matter, but I like to be consistent in the way that I built the circuit. So I'm going to just do that now. Filter pass comes down to set. Then over here, I'll switch back to red because we're going to do, if this filter fails, if I don't have the resources available to craft this, I want to move on to the next item in the next recipe in the list. So I'm just going to come over here, filter fail, comes over to toggle. Filter fail, comes over to toggle. But if the filter passes, I want to actually send this stuff over to my industrial crafter. That's where this conveyor comes in. Now, conveyors only use one energy, or one rust watt, so we can actually just rely on the pass-through. Or sorry, on the filter pass on this. So our item actually, we need our item to be crafted. We have the stuff to do it. Let's actually do it. So I'm just going to run this over here down to the power. So filter pass out of the resource conveyor query. I don't know, call that whatever you like. Then I'm going to come over here and power that on. So now when this filter passes, so we can craft something, we're going to turn this conveyor on. And you know what this conveyor is going to do. The cheap, easy way to do this is just to copy that and open that, paste. You have to apply and open again. And then we're going to change from our minimums to our maximums here. And we're going to set the maximums to the amount to craft 1. That's all we want. We just want to craft 1. And in addition to that, we're going to go ahead and we're going to need the blueprint. So this is the med pen. We're going to open it up and we're going to click this button here to make it the med pen blueprint. Come down here. We're going to make sure everything's required. Again, we're not sending anything in. If this isn't required, you'll end up in situations where you have more resources in your crafter and it becomes messy. So just trust me. You want to require everything here and you want to set the amount to create just 1 along with the blueprint. We're going to come up here and do this. What is this one? Bandages. Why did I do bandages? Cloth. I think it's 4. So we're going to set that to a maximum of 4. Bandage. We'll put the blueprint in there. Ta-da! That one's set up. This one is what? 5. So instead of copying, we'll just make it easy. Frags. We're going to need 10 of those. And gunpowder. We're going to need 5 of those. And we need the blueprint for 5. Did I get that right? I always get it wrong. 10 frags, 5 gunpowder. Okay. So now we have this conveyor actually wanting to pull items and pass them through. This last conveyor is the only one that's actually outputting anything from this entire system here. So we'll just quickly come over here, and each one of these should have a free output that we will just run down to the inputs on each one of these conveyors. I typically try to run my pipes over each other so they don't take up a whole bunch of space in the base. And that's pretty much this part of it. So now what we need to do is we need to find a way to put everything into our industrial conveyor, which we'll slap right here on the tier 2. Another spot is up here, and you can leverage. Get creative. I'm not going to tell you what to do. You get creative. This is where our combiner comes in. So what we want to do is we want to take the outputs of all of these and we want to pipe them into our industrial conveyor. So what I'm going to do is we have 3 here, but I'm going to set up 2 because again, you're just expansion. Always think that you're going to be increasing the size of this circuit. So I'll just put it here. Obviously put it wherever, but just take the output of 1, put it into the other. And we're going to come down here, and I'll make this pipe orange just so it's clear. We're going to come up into the ins here. So the actual components or items that we need to craft whatever are all coming down into this one industrial conveyor. Another thing actually I didn't talk about is the splitter. If you come over and you take a look, you have blueprints on the conveyor crafter. You have blueprints out, blueprints in, industrial out, industrial in. So in order to get this to work, because we have the one conveyor that's grabbing our blueprints and our resources, there's a undocumented I don't know if it's a bug or something along those lines, but it's undocumented that if you take industrial out 1, I'm going to set my pipe to blue, this will contain any blueprints that you send to the splitter. So I can bring this over here and send it to my blueprints in. So this will handle blueprints. This is very, very important. If you don't use industrial out 1 to go into the blueprints here, the blueprints won't end up in the right spot and everything breaks. It sucks. I'm just going to connect this pipe over here to this splitter. The other thing that we need out of here, I guess we'll do, paint. We'll come out of the splitter and we'll go to the industrial end. So the splitter is going to take the blueprints, send them down the blue pipe, and it's going to take all of the other resources and send them down the purple pipe. At this point now, we have a circuit that will grab what we need to craft. It'll send it through the system, hit the splitter here, go to the conveyor. Everything's great so far. The world is a magical place. We're going to need a bit of power over here. You can try to leverage pass-throughs and all of that. I find it so much easier to just come over here, set up a new branch. We'll just do it on the floor in front. You can throw it wherever. But there's a few things we're going to need to power here. We need to power the crafter itself. And then we need to know when things are coming out of the system so that we can pull blueprints out at the right time and we can move on to the next thing, all of that sort of fun stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 2 conveyors, one for the items we craft, one for our blueprints. I'm going to come back over here and grab my blueprint out. I'll stick to blue just so it's easy to follow. My blueprint out is going to go into this one. And I went with pink for the industrial out. So we'll just come over to the industrial out. I'm going to, well, I guess I didn't really need a branch. Well, whatever. I'm using a branch. I'm going to come out of here. Okay. Come up into the power in on that. And then the pass through to the power in on this one. And we can use the pass through on this one to just come back up to the industrial craft. You do have on and off. I'll expand in a different video about how we can pulse and make sure everything's always turned on, because that is a pain in the butt about this system. So now we've got our items checking if we have the resources, sending the resources over to be crafted. We've got everything coming over here. This is where we actually, I thought I had a box. We'll take another little buffer box. So this box here we need in order to, you know what, I'll put it right under the workbench. We're going to use this box as a stopping point, a midway point in our journey. Actually, I think I'm going to need to turn that around. Just for the storage adapter. Oh, God damn it, I didn't buy it. There. Okay, whatever. Can I put the storage adapter on the back of it? Where's the storage adapter? There it is. Okay, yeah. So now let me just put the box in the right way. Yay! And then I can put the conveyor on the front of it. I'm going to take another combiner because I don't need these to be separate. I just need them to operate separately. You'll see why in a second here. So I'm going to just take the industrial output, purple, to there. I'm going to take the blueprint output to there, and then I'm going to just take both of those over to the in on this box. Yeah, I'm going to have to set up another conveyor because I don't have a storage system, but whatever. Okay, so we're almost done. I know it sounds like we're not, I've been talking forever, but trust me, we're almost done. Quick pause. Okay, so I'm just going to set that up right now. I'll just put this over here. We need something to take the items out of this box after they've been crafted and put them back into our box. Kind of a pain in the butt, but whatever. We can just set that up to take whatever. We don't actually need to put any filters on that. And just for right now, just to save me from forgetting later, I'm just going to run this right over to my test generator so that this is already powered. I'm going to turn it on. So whatever hits this box is going to come out. Over here, the wiring. Okay, so when a component comes out, sorry, I don't want the blueprint removed from the conveyor until the item has finished crafting. It can wreak havoc on the system. You want it to wait. This is another little important nuance about this system. So, when an item is crafted, it's going to pass through this conveyor. Thankfully, we have our handy-dandy filter pass. So I'm going to take our filter pass out of this, and I'm going to turn on this conveyor. So this conveyor is going to stay off until the filter passes and has crafted something. Then it's going to turn on, it's going to pull the blueprint out, but then it's still on. Well, you can get crafty with that. The filter pass on this output is actually going to turn itself off. So this conveyor here is going to transfer one item only, and then turn itself off again until this conveyor turns it on. Both conveyors are going to shove everything down into here, and then this conveyor is going to pull it back over here, drop it in here, so our system can then query and see if everything works. I did not actually build this beforehand. I built it here live, so I don't know if it's actually all going to work. We're going to find out. And if not, then we'll go through some debugging steps that I do when things get messed up. So this can all run, everything you see here will run off of 4 power for the crafting, or for the item check conveyors, and then 3 power, well, I guess 4 power over here. You need 1 power for the industrial crafter, 1 for each of the conveyors, and you need that 1 extra power that we can siphon off to turn this on and off. So I'm just going to hook it up. It'll have 100 power coming from the test generator. The point of this video isn't how much energy it saves. It's just about how to build it. So I'm going to come over here, and to prime the system, I'm going to turn that conveyor on, the purple one that takes items out, and I'm going to leave the blue one off. Now I'm going to take the power from there, and I'm going to turn the system on, and let's see what happens. Power in. So, very first thing that happened is you can see the stupid conveyors are off. This is a common pain. You're going to have to sit here and babysit this at first. I will do another video on how to do a heartbeat or a pulse that'll actually run through and turn all of these on constantly and make sure that everything is always on. But I'm not doing that here. So I'm just going to manually turn that on. What is this crafting? Med pens. So this is going to, oh, you can see it. It saw that we don't have any med pens in our box. You can see the AND switch went green, and it's turned on our next one. Do we have the components to build it? Well, let's check and see. We have everything in our box we need to build med pens, and you can see that it has tried to turn on this one right here, our actual retrieve. So we'll go ahead and we'll turn that on. And another thing, we gotta come over and turn on the crafter. Is that not? Did I not? Oh, it's because it's on the branch. It's not getting enough power. I don't know. We'll give it 4. Not good enough? Yeah, it did. So you can see that everything's in here, and it is now crafting a med syringe for us. Hold the items. Our blueprint's still in there. We're going to show this. So once it's finished crafting, it's done. This is going to pull it out. And it's going to turn on our blueprint retrieval. So you'll see our blueprint go missing here, and then after it pulled the blueprint out, it turned itself off. And now it's on to waiting to craft the next one. It's already put everything back in here. I might see if I can find a way to fast forward through this bit if everything just works and I don't actually have to debug anything. I didn't actually think about how long it's going to take to craft this stuff. Come on. You know what? I'm just gonna cheat. We've met the requirement. It's moved on to the next one. I messed with it doing it in the middle of the system, but whatever. Okay, so we're gonna come over. We're gonna turn this one on. What's this one? Bandages. Okay, that'll be quick anyways. It's checked. We don't have enough turn on the one that's going to check to see if we have the resources. We have an abundance of cloth, so we're fine. Then we'll come on and we'll turn on the actual send it over here to craft. We'll come over, we'll watch this. There's my 4 cloth, there's my bandage. Oh, I messed something up. Did I not set one of these to require all? Ah, require all. Apply. Require all. Apply. So you can see what happened is we ended up with cloth in here to build the next one before it actually finished the next. So let me just double check this. Yeah, I didn't hear. Require all. Require all. Again, really important, these two are require all. So I've got my bandages now. Again, it's going to do +1. So we look at this. 3 + 1 is 4. I don't need to explain basic math to you. So as soon as we get 4 bandages in here, we are going to wait for this tick to happen, and we move on to the next one. This one's our 5/5. So I'm going to turn on our query. It's going to see we don't have any 5/5. I'm going to turn on our resource check. It's going to make sure that we have gunpowder and frags. And then I'm going to turn on our actual conveyor to send it over to here. Come watch. And here's everything we need to make some 5/5. Built it. Blueprint will come out. Blueprint will come out. There it goes. And then the system will cycle. It's going to do that again until we get over the 5 that we need. And that is basically how you do it. Now, there is a limitation to the system that I am working with Loopuleasa, I think it is, on Reddit. We've been going back and forth chatting about it on how to make this instead of... So, a limitation of how this is going to work is this is just going to make sure that you have 3 med pens. And it's not going to leave this node until you have 3 med pens. So, in our circuit here, we go med pens, bandages, 5/5. So it's not going to make any bandages until it's made all of the med pens. It's not going to make any 5/5 until it's made all of the bandages. The longer this chain gets, the longer it's going to have to wait. He or she, not sure, they had a great idea of using a separate box as the output of this and changing the first conveyor, the item check conveyor, to pull from that. And then have a different system, like have another box hooked up to a sorting system. I'm rambling at this point because it's actually a neat idea. It increases the complexity a little bit of this first line because you're going to be querying a different box. And it kind of makes the other end a little bit more complex when you have to then pull from that box into your sorting system to get what you want. But that, in theory, would allow a round robin where it would create 1 med pen if it needed, and then immediately go on to 1 bandage if needed, then immediately go on to 3 5/5 if needed, and then loop back. It is a limitation of the system, but just to show it working, if I take some med pens out, oh, well, no, I missed the item check. So we'll just see the system's going to cycle. It's going to notice that we're low on med pens. It's going to start, you can see the green lights going down here. It's going to start the, do we have the resources? Then it's going to start that off. Come over here. Yay, and now we're crafting a new med pen. That's the basis for, well, not the basis, that's the entire system. We've taken you through all of the concepts of the item conveyor is so much more than just moving things from one box to the other. We've talked about the beauty of the memory cell and how you can set up these looping circuits to keep power. Oh, and just to prove that this all runs on very little power, I'm going to set this branch to pass through 4. I'm going to take out this memory cell, or sorry, I'll go into this branch, and again, we've only configured this to output 4. Come over here, turn that on, and just so you can see that the whole system works off of 4, I'll take a med pen out. Everything's going to loop. See, all of our conveyors did actually turn on. Everything's functioning. It's crafting our med pen. So this entire circuit, regardless of how big it gets, regardless of how many recipes you put in, is only ever going to use 4 rust bullets, which is a lifesaver. Batteries are big, and if you can run this, you can run this entire system here along with sorting into 4 or 5 boxes off of one battery. One small battery off of 15 rust watts. I'm rambling at this point, so I'm going to wrap up the video. But if you have any questions or anything, don't hesitate to hit me up. You can hit it in the comments. Don't like, follow, or subscribe. I'm really not going to be posting very many videos, so save yourself the time. All right.